Your positive imprint.
Stories are everywhere. People and their positive action inspire positive achievements. Your PI could mean the world to you. Get ready for your positive imprint.
Hello, this is Catherine, your host of the podcast, Your Positive Imprint, the variety show featuring people all over the world whose positive achievements inspire positive thought and action. Exceptional people rising to the challenge. Music by the talented Chris Knoll. Check out his music and learn more about him at chrisknoll.com. ChrisNole. Fabulous music and lots of new music too. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram, Your Positive Imprint. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Check out my YouTube channel, Your Positive Imprint. Visit my website, yourpositiveimprint.com, where you can sign up for podcast updates and also follow this podcast. Under the play button is a subscribe button that will take you to easy links for some podcast platforms. There is also a share button that will allow you to download the episode or click on the copy button to share the link or share the episode right to your own social media. You can also listen and follow my show from your favorite podcast platform, such as Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Amazon Music. Or, of course, listen from your favorite podcast platform. Please hit that subscribe or follow button now. This is a free podcast. Your Positive Imprint. What's your PI? Christophe Zajac-Denek is a known television producer, surfer, drummer, actor, stuntman, and so much more. His talents have sent him around the world entertaining audiences. But Christophe has always had a goal, and today, through podcasting and television, his goal is more attainable. Building a bridge between little people and the average height world is one of his many positive imprints. Christophe, too, is a little person born with the disorder of bone growth called cartilage hair hypoplasia. Christophe's bone disorder does not identify him. His positive imprints are whom he is. Christophe, we've been talking so much and getting to know each other, and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on. This is awesome. I'm excited to be here. Yeah, I'm a little person. I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan, where the winters are brutal. And sorry about that, y'all. And yeah, I grew up, when I was born, I tell this story a lot. The doctor that delivered me came in and told my mom, yeah, your son has a form of dwarfism and we don't exactly know what's going on, but he's never going to run. He's never going to ride a bicycle. He's never going to live a normal life. And it was really kind of devastating for my mom to hear that on my first day of life. But it was an awakening. They kind of realized, okay, we're not taking this lying down, and this is just one person's opinion. And so my family sought out to find the best care for me they possibly could. We got connected with a doctor in Baltimore, Maryland named Dr. Kopitz, and I saw him for 16 years. Every year we would drive from Detroit to Baltimore, and we started to see him when I was 2. And he was a genius. He spent dedicated his life to helping little people, and he devised these innovative ways to operate on little people and correct our problems. And I mean, I lucked out. At 6, I had my first leg straightening operation. They made non-unions out of my fibulas, which corrects the bowing in the lower legs. So my fibulas, the non-weight bearing bone in my lower leg, have not been connected since I was 6, which is interesting. I believe he performed this on a number of little people. This was a regular operation, and my legs are straighter because of it. He also performed other operations on my legs as well at 6, but that was one of the procedures. And then between 6 and 16, I just kind of lived my life. I was riding my bike and skateboarding and getting dirty and playing in the mud and playing soccer and basketball and into remote control cars and regular typical suburban slash farm living kid in Metro Detroit, Michigan. And, life was great. My parents never told me that I couldn't do anything. They never, you know, protected me from things. I mean, they protected me from things in the way that a kid needs protection. And obviously, there were kids and adults too that would point me out and make fun of me and stuff and catcall me and say, "Oh, there's a midget. Like, have you seen that short guy or whatever?" They would be surprised, or I call it a misunderstanding, a reaction born of misunderstanding because they don't know me, right? And so they react in the most comfortable way they know how. And a lot of times that's
Sure.
hurtful.
It is, and I
So,
think a lot of people, it's easier to be judgmental than to learn the value of each person, and it's
yeah,
easier
for
to
sure.
walk away, and I don't think that's right. Everybody has value regardless. And I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, it's fine. Interruptions can sometimes be really good. So it's all good. But yeah, and then I think it was around 13, the doctor said, "Oh, your spine is curved more than it should be, and we need to watch out for that." And he prescribed a back brace that I was to wear, and I hated wearing it. There's a lot of self-conscious feelings around a 13-year-old who's having to wear a back brace to high school, and that was just tough. And I kind of didn't wear it as much as I should have, and there was something in my brain that just knew I was going to have surgery for my back. And so I had another operation on my legs at 16. 17, I had a spinal fusion that they put two rods, attached them to my spine with hooks, and straightened out my spine quite a bit. And yeah, that was another complication from cartilage hair hypoplasia.
You're born with it, so it's going to be part of a gene pool.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's in me. It's I From what my knowledge is that it's a recessive gene that's given from both parents that results in dwarfism. And so somewhere, someone along the way, or there was a mutation or something like that, formed uh, in me cartilage hair hypoplasia. That's a terrible description of what happens. I'm not a scientist. I can't. I hope people are entertained by that. From what I know, it is a recessive gene. And I talk on my show that dwarfism is a mixed bag, and there are people who have 11 operations or more in their lives, and there are some people who don't have any. And it's all about, correcting and preserving motion and managing your pain. And those are big things, especially when in the medical field there aren't a bunch of doctors that are specializing in dwarfism. It's kind of sometimes trying to fit a square peg into a round hole.
Yeah. So do you live with pain?
uh Miraculously, I do not live with pain.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Which is I am so lucky. The doctors that performed operations on me were beyond talented, and there's also a lot of luck involved because you can have extremely talented doctors and still end up, in a situation where you have pain. So I'm very lucky. I'm very active. I'm very mobile. I do just about whatever I want to, and I do not take that for granted.
Well, let's talk about the doing whatever you want to. But first, I just want to mention that I commend your parents for making sure that you understood that you go for it and you go for whatever you want and go and play, go have fun. Nothing's going to stop you. And you did all of that. And so that obviously helped you with, and we'll talk about that later, your surfing. Now you have fulfilled so many things in your life, and you keep moving and doing more, and you're adding more and doing more, and now you have this huge goal of yours to bridge this gap, which is everything that you've done except for some of your roles. I mean, Spike the Ike. I mean, Ike the Spike is definitely not a positive imprint in my book, but the entertainment, of course, is a positive imprint, because good acting is always welcome into people's living rooms and dens as they watch.
I would caution you on what you say about Ike the Spike.
Yeah,
So
probably.
Like this is gonna get out there, and Ike the Spike might hear something. So just be forewarned.
I watched. I'm not. So for listeners, Ike the Spike comes from Twin Peaks. And our friend here, Christophe Zajac-Denek, was on Twin Peaks as Ike the Spike. So you have done so much, and I kind of would like our conversation to gear around the inspiration of, no matter whom you are or what type of stipulations have been put on your body, you still have a soul.
Yeah.
And so we can go from there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we have to go back and give props to my parents again, because, not only did they find the best care and get me taken care of as much as they possibly could physically, they also fed my fuel for desire and adventure and trying new things. My dad took me on multiple trips around the country and Canada, just exploring and going to the Grand Canyon and to New York City and to just all over the place, fishing in Canada. And that just opened my eyes all the time to a world that you don't get just sitting at home in the Midwest and seeing other things. And then my mom traveled me as well. We would go to islands, and she took me to France. And as a youngster, 5, 6, 7, my mom started this points program with me. And if I would try something new, she would barter with me, and I would be able to get points from, like, say we're at a restaurant and she orders escargot, which is snails, right? And as a 6-year-old, you're like, what is that? And they say, oh, it's snails. And you say, yeah, I'm not going to eat that. And my mom says, okay, well, you get 50 points if you try. You don't have to like it, you don't have to eat all of them, but you have to try one, and you get 50 points if you try a snail. And so it's like, well, that's not so bad. Plus 50 points. If I get 1,000 points, I get a toy. So come on, this is like, I'm cheating the system here. Like, this is great. And so, I mean, what a smart way to bring up a kid, just to have this adventure instilled, and this love for trying things and knowing, you're not going to die. The things that my parents did will stay with me forever. And that just fueled my love for just myself and doing whatever I could. And I wanted to play drums, and so I bought a drum kit, and I wanted to go to New York and travel around and just see the world. And then I started playing drums in a rock and roll band, and like all of these things just kind of came from, maybe it came back to bite my parents, because I've been on the road possibly for my entire life, not necessarily
Wow.
on tour,
Yeah,
but
wow.
just moving around and doing different jobs. And I mean, I don't have history with a corporation or anything like that. So it's just been all of these different experiences in my life. And now I'm 41 now, and they make for an interesting story, I think. I love all the things that I've done, and I've loved the story that's my life now. And that wouldn't have been the case had my parents approached this dwarfism with, like, okay, we need to insulate Christophe and keep his existence safe. Like, we're just gonna make sure that he's okay and just go on. And no, I went out there and got messy.
that's that's a fun way to phrase it. You got messy, and that's such positivity, because it left you with such absolute positive outlook on life and yourself. And that was such a great start because, as I said, everybody has a soul. And your dwarfism, obviously, it does not identify whom you are. And you talked about at one point in your biography, you had mentioned that you were in denial. Why was that? Why do you think
Yeah,
it
well,
was?
that's the other side of the coin, right? Is, you have all this soul in meeting people and doing things or experiences. I don't know if I want to tell claim that I have all this soul, but I definitely there's some replacement there. There's some denial of who you really are when you just accumulate hobbies and toys to execute those hobbies. It's kind of like there's a little bit of ableism there on that you put on yourself, and denial of, like we were talking before the show, we had the discussion about, do little people feel like they are disabled or they fall into a category of disability? And for the longest time, I would deny my disability and I would say, no, this is not, even after having 3 surgeries where my bones were cut and broken and screwed together. It's like, no, I could still play basketball with y'all. I could still play football. It's like, no, actually I can't. I have to honor what my body is doing and what it is, and look at it and say, okay, there's a future here that you have to pay attention to, and physically you have to watch out for yourself more so than other people, which is kind of the easier that's the easier one to tackle, it's not as hard to say, yeah, I can't go play football or I can't go, play baseball with you guys because honestly I'll be in pain or sore. The other thing that's really the thing that's harder, I think, is just saying you're okay. The way that you are, yeah, your body is mangled in r- relation to people around you, in relative ways, but you're okay as a person. And coming to that, ugh, I mean, that's still a thing. I still have to work on that on a regular basis because it's just not easy. And there's a little bit of a divergence there because as little people, I'll speak for myself, I didn't want people to help me and I didn't want people to get stuff for me, but I need people to get stuff for me, I don't want people to identify my dwarfism and call it out in certain ways, but I want to talk about my dwarfism at the same time. Like it's walking this line that ends up being so hard for people, for myself. And it's you kind of fill that void or avoid those conversations with your hobbies or your work or things that you think are cool or things that you think other people are going to think are cool because you're doing them. And yeah, that's the discussion that's tough and a pretty unique gray area, I would say.
I really, really love the attitude that you have, though. And again, like you say, it does go back to your parents in instilling this in you so that you do move forward and you will move forward without regret or without questions and you make your own decisions. So, one of the things that I think comes out from our conversations that I've had with you over the last couple of weeks, which have just been so much fun,
Yeah.
is that you're really wanting to put forth the podcast number one that you have, but not just the podcast. You're really trying to put some education into the world, and I should just let you talk about it and how you're educating the world with the understanding of what dwarfism actually is.
Yeah. I think it's really important that people hear the stories of these little people because they're so exceptional, and my show is there to entertain, and I want people to walk away from it and have some exposure to little people and say, "Oh, okay, the next time I see a little person, maybe I don't have to run away in the grocery store and hide behind an aisle." Like if they're standing next to me, maybe I can say like, "Hey, how you doing? how's your day today? Just have a conversation, because I would say 90% of the time you're going to be met with, like, if you were to approach anybody, and just say that to them. If we can feel when you're treating us like a person, and when you're treating us like an object of hilarity, or something you want to exploit. We have senses too. But I want to educate, but I also want people to be entertained by these personalities. Like, I don't want my show to be a stuffy thing, because I don't know stuffy little people. It's not this thing where people are, oh, it's time to learn about dwarfism now. It's like, no, you're going to hear some crazy stories that had my jaw on the floor when I first heard them, because some of my friends have been arrested on military bases. Other people have been, lauded on their tours of in Europe, playing in rock and roll bands by other little people who found them and said, "Oh, you're so cool that you play guitar on stage." And hearing these stories of other little people, it's just like, everybody has an amazing life experience, but little people have such we have the same experience as you, but it's amplified in this way, because everyone is staring at us, but also we've had to figure out our surroundings in the way of just like testing things out. And a lot of us are really open-minded, and so that can sometimes get us into some precarious situations. But you learn from that, because you learn that everybody's in a tough spot sometimes, and everybody has to figure out what it is that they're doing, figure out what it is that they are here for, figure out who they are. And it's this constant thing. But for some reason, with people with dwarfism, it can be a very exciting adventure.
Well, you figured out what you're here for.
You alluded to before, 5 years ago, this was not Christophe. This was not, I wasn't, I was kind of just starting my friendships and my relationships with little people, because I just didn't want to accept myself and didn't want to accept other people. And when you see another little person, I was just reading a book about this. When you are a little person, you don't think of yourself as a little person. But then when I would see another little person, or I would see a photograph of myself, or if I would be with my friends and catch myself in a mirror, and it's kind of shocking to see your physicality and your body, especially next to other people. And I get it. Like, I don't look at my hands and think, oh, those are the hands of a little person. I just look at them and say, oh, those are my hands. They're going to do stuff for me today. And so to step back and actually look at yourself and see that, you have to understand that other people will see you as a curiosity or an oddity or whatever they describe you as, but the people that you really need to care about are the ones that are going to look beyond what the physicality is, and look into your heart and your mind, and see you for that.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, because that is important, and it's important to remind people. So now I want to go to your entertainment business, because you wanted to be a musician.
Yeah.
And you left Michigan for Hollywood.
Yep.
and then this career just bam. So how did that happen? And before you move on into that, I have a quick question. Because you didn't form relationships with little people, and I'm not saying you needed to, but did you feel that you were ostracized by other little people, actors and actresses, in any way?
I never felt ostracized by actors and actresses who were little, per se. Once I got to Hollywood, I felt I was pretty much accepted, because I think the people around me knew how to accept little people, and they saw me and they were very nice to me and said, "Hey, what's up, man? How you doing? Who are you?" I was the one with the problem. I was the one that was like, "This is
Yeah.
weird. I don't know," because I played in a rock band for 6 years from Detroit, and I saw one little person in those 6 years. There were never any little people around, and there was only one little person in my life until I was 30, and she would come and see the my band now and then, or when it was close to her, when we were playing close to her city, and we became friends and stuff. And I really want to say that I wasn't weird about it, but I was weird about it. It wasn't, I didn't go to LPA, Little People of America, and have a ton of relationships with little people. So it was a really difficult thing for me to just accept and get over and get into and say, okay, these people are just physically different, but they're great people. I need to spend time with them. So it took me a
Yeah.
long time.
And that's okay. You also were drumming and doing things that obviously were not going to allow you to build too many relationships beyond your travels. So let's talk about Hollywood, because I think this is just so interesting. And
Yeah.
some of those pictures, oh my gosh. I have to tell you, I had such a hard time looking at some of them. It's easier. It's so much easier to watch the movie or the TV show and see the gore or the monstrous costumes, and then to see it on a picture where it's up close and where you can see all the
Yeah.
oh, okay, so go ahead.
That's the guy with the horns and the nose and everything.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I came to Hollywood to play music, and I was auditioning for bands and you know, doing that whole thing. And I got a couple gigs. Actually, I got one really big gig. I ended up playing on the Ellen DeGeneres show with a 9-year-old prodigy guitarist, and
Wow.
that's just because I was sitting in my room in North Hollywood refreshing Craigslist every 10 minutes, and there was a gig that came up, and I responded to it and got hired for the gig. And then a couple weeks later after that, I got called from Universal Pictures Films, and they said, "Hey, we want to hire you to be a stand-in for a CGI alien character in New Mexico for 3 months." And yeah, I love New Mexico. New Mexico's and we had toured to New Mexico a couple of times, and I always found New Mexico really beautiful. And I accepted the job, which I almost did not do, and just kind of landed into acting. And it was cool and it was fun and it was unlike anything I'd ever done before. And I'm a social guy, so I just went around and met everyone on the crew and hung out and partied with them, and went to work every day. And on my days off, I would go and explore Taos or get some chocolate at Kakawa or something like that. And uh I loved it so much. And then I came back to Hollywood, and I got an agent, and things kind of were falling into place with all that. But I still wanted to play music. Like, music was still in my blood. Although I really loved acting, and the jobs and the money was so much better than playing music. So I was definitely torn. I wanted to do Hollywood stuff and music stuff, and I kind of bounced back and forth. I actually went back to Detroit because I wanted to play music and got back in the music scene over there. But then acting found me in Detroit, and so I worked on a big movie in Detroit. And then again, Michigan has terrible winters, so then I
Uh-huh.
wanted to move back to Hollywood. I've been very fortunate, and acting as a little person in Hollywood is a unique experience because we are not afforded the same opportunities as average height folks. And, you know, for a reason, I guess, but the discouraging thing that I found was that Hollywood regularly wanted to put me in a ton of makeup and a ton of foam and costumes and monsters roles. And there are very, very few roles that I saw and that I booked for me to just play a guy at in any sort of somewhat normal situation without having a fetishized, tinge, or, this crazy characterization of an individual, I guess, if you even want to call that. People didn't really have roles. Writers and productions didn't really have roles that were fleshed out and dynamic and multi-layered for little people. It was mostly just costumes and goop and prosthetics and makeup. And that just that wore on me after a while. And it's frustrating when you talk to other actors because you develop relationships with other actors. And, you know, being on Twin Peaks, I was around so many talented and incredible folks, and they would go on auditions, obviously. And I just would not be going on auditions because the roles aren't there. And it's just kind of got discouraging for me. And I can handle rejection. I think I can handle a lot of rejection. I've rejected quite a bit in my life, and I can still smile about it. But when I know that I have brains and something more to offer than a bald short guy showing up, it's a little bit discouraging.
Oh, sure, sure. Because again, you don't feel that the value that you're able to offer has been really used or accepted. Uh,
Yeah,
and
and that's not just me. I
yeah.
mean, I see that in my peers too. All the little people that I know, they're not just shorter meat sacks. We're really incredible and dynamic people. And I'm extending that to all of the little people that are out there. It's not just, I'm not an exception. It's everyone that is there, and they all have incredible stories, and they would be so good as friends or bridesmaids or business people or villains or whatever, that are just normal in life. And I think that is a huge reason why, you know, it comes for full circle, and you see the kids in grocery stores that end up making fun of Christoph at 8 years old because they've only seen little people as this nebulous character that just doesn't deserve a backstory, or is just this fetishized thing that people make fun of all the time. And there aren't Peter Dinklage is doing amazing things. I love Peter's work, and the first time I saw The Station Agent, I didn't understand why I identified with that role so much, because like, who told people about us? What happened? How did this get out? How did they know about me? And that I just hope that there's going to be more of that out there, because it all just helps, and it all just helps to normalize and create an exposure experience for folks.
Sure. So, what has been your favorite role that you have done?
It's been Ike the Spike. It's been Twin Peaks. Well, because I mean, there are so many reasons why.
And my
Least amount of
sister
makeup I've
absolutely loves that character.
done. What's up, sis? Howdy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the thing. Hardly any makeup. I had some pretty bad meth teeth that they had me wear, and the rest of it is it's a lot of Christoph in that one, and
I hope it's really not a lot of Christoph in that
I was so sore after that day. It was something else.
I'm teasing. I'm
No,
teasing.
no, that's not normally Christoph. That is not.
I do.
But I've been such a huge fan of David Lynch, his movies and his shows. I, I just to be on it at all as an extra, I would have been over the moon. And to actually have a role on that show, and then to get to do what I did on any show, is special in my opinion. But I'm this little guy who is vicious, and I think I'm just so proud of that. I don't totally comprehend how it happened, how I ended up getting the role and getting chosen, but I'm beyond proud of it. It's a very brutal, messy, gruesome scene that I have, but I think it's awesome. I mean, you see my whole body, you see me in action, you see me playing a role and being this terrible character. But I also think it's cool that you see my face, and there is a little bit of humanity to Ike as well. He's got a sliver of a soft side that comes out, and that goes, then he takes that sliver and spikes somebody else. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. He's a very resourceful guy. But yeah, that's my favorite. role for sure, hands down.
Yeah. And do you see any other roles in the future? What is it that
Um,
Christophe would like to do?
yeah, I at the moment I'm most focused on my podcast. I want that to be the thing that I'm putting the most energy into at the moment. I honestly haven't been called from my agents that much during the time of COVID, which is kind of okay because going on set freaks me out a little bit, and being around 80 to 120 people that have been around 80 to 120 people the day before, I'm being very cautious. But yeah, the podcast is what I want to focus on at the moment, and I would be into acting later on. I really want to do roles that lift little people up and that showcase us as uh, humans, and not props or other things. And I think Hollywood is moving in that direction. It's a slow roll, but I do think it is. There have been some, you know, movements in the right direction for that, and I'm really interested to see where that goes. So, for instance, there's an Amazon commercial, and it's the first time I've ever seen a little person on a commercial who was just herself, just a person. I think it's such a cool thing that this little person is normalized in this friend group. So, way to go. Nice job.
So now I know that you are a surfer. You learned to surf through adaptive surfing or through a program. Is that correct?
No, I just tossed myself in the ocean.
Oh my gosh, you are. Oh my gosh. Like your mom
Yeah.
did, handed you the skateboard and off you went. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
exactly. I know. I just, I,
good for you. Good for you.
yeah, I mean, surfing has my heart over and over again. And when I moved to LA, I knew I wanted to surf. I've loved it since I was a teenager. And I would just go to the beach all the time and just try to get better and learn. And I ended up making a bunch of friends. And I surf in Malibu quite a bit and in Ventura. And I don't know.
I
When you
think you
love
won an
something that
award too, right?
I did. Yeah, I won. There was an adaptive surfing competition in Oceanside, California, and they held a short stature division, and I ended up surfing against one other individual, and he is such an incredible surfer. He's so good. I mean, the only reason why I won is because of luck, It's not it but just being out in the water with another surfer and knowing that it's our heat and our
Oh yeah.
division.
Yeah.
That to me was so incredible because they said, "Hey, actually, if you come down and surf in this, we'll make a specific division for the two of you and you can compete in this." And uh how can I turn that down? I mean, that's incredible. So I did it, and yes, I ended up winning, but Ryan is so talented, and he's such a great guy, and he's such an incredible surfer. He's won more contests than I've entered, and it was just a pleasure to be out there with him. So yeah. But the other thing is, there were 90 contestants in that competition, and they're from all over the world, and they're blind and deaf and amputees and spinal cord injury folks with spinal cord injuries. And it was just so cool to see all of these unique people having the love for surfing and being out there with one another, and so much support. I mean, how can you how can you deny that, all the support and love for these folks? And it was just awesome.
Yeah. Wow, you've done so much. And you've really gone out there and but you don't just go out and do it. You're actually learning from it and taking away
Yeah.
some form of positivity and giving it back to humanity in different ways. And now it
Oh,
happens to
thanks.
be your podcast. So let's talk about the podcast. What's
Yeah.
the name of the show?
The show is called "I'm Kind of a Big Deal," and I changed my subtitle to "Little People, Huge Stories," and I think that just fits because these stories are really big, and they'll open your eyes to another world, if not just like even if they were told by an average height person, I think they would be exceptional. But these are people who are, you know, around 4'6" to 3 feet tall, and they have unique struggles, but they do not let that keep them down. They are not searching for pity. They want to get it themselves. They want to do it themselves. And they've led lives that just really haven't been exposed and haven't been shown to people. And I think that is the biggest thing for people to understand. And it's the way for people to accept them and have empathy for them, and say, okay, we want to include you in this because you're a person too, and I can hear your voice, and it's similar to mine, and let's have you come to the table. And I think that's the best way I know how to do this. I don't claim to be a genius about uh bringing people together or anything, but I just know that these I love stories, and I know that these stories are exceptional and people need to hear them.
I love your subtitle, Little People, Huge Stories.
Yeah.
So, what have we missed that you really would like to talk about?
I feel like we've covered so much. You're a great interviewer. You do a lot of research, and
I
you
do.
ask great questions. So kudos to you. I guess I kind of end what I'm saying to folks with, just yes, little person, short stature, dwarf, they're all acceptable terms. But, if you see a little person, I think the best way to identify them is with their name and saying, addressing them. And that kind of motivates you to introduce yourself and actually get their name so you can say hello. And I think that is just a big step towards humanizing that individual and that experience in a way that is easier to connect. And I think that's what's the important thing.
Christophe, you are so incredibly inspiring, and you are a positive imprint for everyone that you come into contact with. And really, you value the person that you meet and what they are about.
I will share what I say at the end of my show, and that is life is short, have fun.
I so much enjoyed meeting you, and I had so much fun. Thank you for sharing your humor and your time.
Oh, absolutely. And thank you so much for having me on the show. This was so much fun. You have a great show. I've really enjoyed listening to it. So I'm so happy to be a part of it. Thank you.
Oh, Christophe, thank you so much. Well, I appreciate it. We will be in touch. So,
awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, your positive imprint. What's your PI?